Hi everyone. I hope I am audible. So let me just check once. So the topic for today is introduction to pollination. Okay. So before I start, let me introduce myself. I am Vani Kari, biology educator at Unacademy. I'm an engineer with bachelor's and master's degree in biotechnology and a B.Ed degree. Also a founder of a startup where I grow microgreens by vertical farming technology. So before I start, join with us in Telegram. One second, let me just check if this is audible. Yeah. So you can join with us in Telegram. So for homework and class notes, you can join the channel Vani Kari ICSE class 9 and 10. Okay. So Telegram, ICSE and ISC both channel. You can find this link in the description box. So you can click on the link which is available there and join the channel. Okay. This is not showing that I am live. So let me just check if this is fine. Am I audible? Anybody here? So Unacademy free special class features. So live real-time interaction using the chat and the emojis. Let me just sort it out. Just a second. Okay. So live real-time interaction using the chat and the emojis. Ask questions using the question tab. So live poll option is available for quizzes. So basically we can conduct a quiz there. Okay. So poll leaderboard we will be sharing so that you can compete with your friends as well. So once the quiz is over, so you can know your ranks there. Okay. So Unacademy subscription features. So basically you can learn live from the comfort of your home. Unlimited access to all the courses will be there, like different educators will come up with different courses, so you can have access to all of the courses. Okay, so top educators of India are going to take the class in one platform, that is Unacademy platform. Yeah, now it is fine, right? So till now it was not showing me. Yeah, now it is fine. Okay. So you can learn live from the comfort of your home. Unlimited access to all the courses will be there. Okay. So top educators of India are going to take the class in one platform, that is Unacademy platform. Regular doubt clearing session will be done. So after about every 3 sessions, the fourth session which is there, so that is about a doubt clearing session. So any doubts you have related to the topics that are previously covered, so you can clear your doubts in this particular session. Then complete syllabus will be covered, mentorship and guidance is given, study material is given, practice tests are given, live test series, batch courses. So if you prefer to learn in Hindi, you will have access to Hindi batch. So if you prefer to learn in English, you can have access to English batch as well. So same way English batch as well. Okay. So depending on which language you prefer, so you can go with that batch. So basically you will have access to all of these batches once you take the subscription. Along with that, there is a daily practice session, weekly mock test series, live quizzes, daily MCQ and subjective test series will also be there. Okay, so if you are planning to take the subscription, so you can use my referral code VANIYT. Okay, so this is like if you just want to try like how exactly plus subscription works, so you can go with 6 months of subscription. And since this is just the beginning for those who are in class 9, okay, so you just have finished your exam and entering actually class 9. Okay, so for those learners, if you are planning to complete your class 9 with Unacademy, so you can go with the 12 months subscription. If you are planning further, maybe you can complete class 9 and 10 as well with the 24 months of subscription. So based on your convenience, you can go for any months of subscription. And this is my referral code Vani YT. Okay, so with this referral code you will be getting 10% discount on the subscription. Okay, so no more breaks in your preparation journey. So if you are planning, so this is the code Vani YT is the referral code, so you can use this code. So if you are planning to take the subscription, so this is Vani YT. Okay, so basically you can for if you are going only for 12 months, so 1 month extra you are getting. So for 12 months of subscription you are getting 13 months of subscription. With the referral code Vani YT you will be getting 10% discount also. Okay, so it is like two offers are available, so you can make use of this offer and go for the subscription, as you will have access to all of the subjects that I will be covering. Okay, so moving on to the introduction part of what exactly is pollination. Yes, anybody, what is pollination? So this is the introduction for a pollination. What exactly happens in pollination? What is pollination? Any idea on this one? Excuse me. Okay, I'll mention about this one. So pollination, when we mention, basically the powdery substance that you see on a plant. So whenever you touch a flower, okay, so there is some powdery material that will get attached onto your hand, or let's say about an insect. Okay, so in all these cases it is basically this particular bee. Here I am just taking an example of a bee. Okay, so now bee is there. Okay, so it will get inside here. Okay, that is to collect a nectar. So here is the flower, so it is going to collect a nectar from this particular flower. Okay, so now what can happen? So here you can see that there is an anther. Okay, so from anther the pollen grains which are released. So this is a powdery material or a powdery thing which is actually a pollen grain. Okay, so this is a pollen grain, and these pollen grains will get attached onto the body of the bee. Okay, and that is when the transfer of, or basically the transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma can occur, or it can occur through the wind, it can occur through the water, it can even occur through the human. Okay, so depending on what condition, like whether it is a water pollinated plant, whether it is a insect pollinated plant, different features are there. So if it is an insect pollinated plant, it needs to be more attractive, so it needs to be colorful, it needs to be it needs to produce a nectar, then it needs to be a slight bigger so that it can be seen clearly. Okay, so in that case a larger petal or maybe a larger flower, more of a nectar production, and attractive flower, colorful flower has to be produced, so that all these insects will get attracted and they'll come there. So as they reach the flower, the pollen grain will get attached onto the body of the insect. Okay, so now in that case what can happen when that happens? The transfer of pollen, that is mainly the pollen grain, from the male parts of a flower. What is the male part of a flower? We will see that. Okay, so now when we draw a flower, okay, so basically you can see there is this is a flower now. Okay, so there is a flower, so this one is now a flower, which is actually all the whorls what are there, so they are placed onto the receptacle or a thalamus, we can say. So here we can draw a thalamus over here. Okay, so this is a thalamus having all these sepals will be there. Okay, so this is a sepal now. So now this flower needs to be attractive. Okay, so for that it needs to produce. So now this is a petal over here, so you can see a stalk. Okay, so we will just draw the stalk as such. So now this one over here is a stalk. Okay, so now from here the stigma is there, then you can see style stigma ovary, so we will just draw the stigma over here. then anther and a filament can be there, so we can just draw this anther and a filament. Okay, so now you can see this is the anther over here. So from anther what can happen? So there is a production of pollen grain that can happen. Okay, so let's say the pollen grain is produced. Okay, so this is going to produce a pollen grain, and this particular part which is there, the anther and the filament, so this is now a anther, this is a filament, so both of them together, so what are they going to form? So they are forming a structure or a male reproductive part, so that is actually the stamen. Okay, so now we were drawing here, so stigma style and ovary over here, and inside that a placenta will be there and ovule is attached onto this placenta. Okay, so now this part is stigma. Okay, so this is a stigma and this one is a style, and this is a ovary, so this one is ovary now. So these three are forming a carpel or a pistil. Okay, or we can also call it as a gynoecium. Okay, so this is a gynoecium now. So this is a stamen when we mention, so stamen one also can be called as androecium as well. Okay, so this is a androecium as well. So now this part what is there? So this is a male reproductive part, this one is a female reproductive part. Okay, so this is a female reproductive part. So as you can see in this one, it is from the male reproductive part, the pollen grain which is released, so that will be reaching the female part of the same or the different flower to help the fertilization, so that we call as a pollination. So pollination is an important step of the sexual reproduction in plant. So how exactly does the sexual reproduction occur? So if we have to see this one, so let me just erase this. Okay, so now the pollination can occur between the same plant. So let me just draw a plant here. So this is a plant. Okay, so there is a leaf and other structures we can show. So here is this leaf, and I'll just draw one flower over here. Okay, so here is one flower which is there, and here also I can show one flower. Okay, so now this is one plant, there is one more plant. Okay, so we will show one more plant over here. So this is another plant which is there. Okay, so again of the same species itself, so they are plants of the same species, so this is the same species. Okay, so in that case let's say this one is hibiscus now. Okay, so this is a hibiscus, this one also is a hibiscus. Okay, so in that case there is one more flower, we will just draw one more flower over here. Okay, so there is a flower which is here. Okay, so in this case what can happen, the pollen grains that are produced, okay, we will just show the pollen grain. So the pollen grains which are produced over here. Okay, so there is this one is a bisexual one now. Okay, so this is a bisexual flower, so we can just take it as a bisexual plant or a bisexual flower. In that case the pollen grains which are produced from here, so if the pollen grains are transferred from here to the stigma, okay, so it is reaching the stigma, so pollen grains from other flower in the same plant, so now we can say that a same plant but different flower. Okay, so same plant it is, but the different flower in the same plant, if the transfer of a pollen grain is occurring. Okay, so in that case what do we call it? We call it as a gatianogamy. Okay, so that is a gatianogamy, so they'll just label this one. So this is now a gatianogamy. The meaning is that the transfer of a pollen grain is occurring from one flower to the other flower in the same plant. So gatiano meaning is neighbor. Okay, so gatiano meaning is neighbor. Okay, and gamy meaning is marriage. Okay, so neighbor marriage, what is neighbor marriage? So it is occurring in the same plant but the different flower, so it is like a neighbor. Now this plant can become a stranger, so this is a stranger or other one. So whenever a pollen grain is transferred, so let's draw one more structure here. Okay, so pollen grain is being transferred from here to here itself. So it is a self pollination, so it is a autogamy. So what is autogamy here? So gamy is again a marriage, auto is a self. So self marriage is occurring. That means within the same flower, the pollen grain is being transferred to the stigma of the same flower. So that is the autogamy. Now we will say, we'll take another example. Okay, so from here what can happen? So we will see. Okay, so this one. Okay, so anther, that is the pollen grain which is here. So pollen grain from here, it is moving to the other plant. Okay, so now you know the pollen grain movement is occurring from this plant to the other plant of the same species. So this is a different plant. So now this we can mention as a xenogamy, or it can also be called as a allogamy. Okay, so what is allogamy here? So when we mention allogamy, it is basically the other. Meaning of this one is other, or we can also say it as a stranger. So stranger marriage is occurring. So this plant and this plant are a stranger, even though they are belonging to the same species, but they don't know each other, so they are strangers. Okay, so you know from here the pollen grain is being transferred to the other one. So in that case this is a pollination. So these are all pollination types. Okay, so what are the pollination types that we have? So the types are basically the gatianogamy, the autogamy, and a xenogamy. So let's have a look at this one. So now when we mention about a pollination, important step of sexual reproduction. So when does the pollination occur? So you know that flower is what, when we say flower, it is the reproductive part of a plant. Okay, so why do we call it as a reproductive part of a plant? Because this is having a male reproductive part, it is having a female reproductive part. So that is where once the fertilization, that means once the male gamete fuses with the female gamete okay, so it is called as a fertilization and the product is formed. Okay, that is zygote formation will occur. And this zygote, when we mention, so this is basically, you know, this is giving rise to seed formation later on. Okay, so you know this ovary part which is there in the stigma style and ovary, so this ovary part can become a fruit, and inside that ovule which is there, so that can become a seed. Okay, so here we will see the types here. Okay, so pollination types. So there is autogamy. So this is within the same flower, the transfer of a pollen grain is occurring. Okay, so that means the anther. So pollen grains from the anther are being transferred to the stigma of the same flower. Okay, so that is a self marriage. So auto, I'll just write it here. Okay, so now this one you can see, so autogamy. Okay, so gamy, when we mention, so this is basically a marriage. All right, auto matlab it is basically self. Okay, so it is a self marriage. Then you can see gatano. What is gatano? Gatano is a neighbor. Again gamy is there, so gamy is again a marriage. So gatano meaning is, so this is basically a neighbor. Okay, so neighbor marriage is occurring. Okay, so now you know xenogamy is there, or we can also write it as all right, we will just all. Okay, so these two terms are basically, you know, this is other, or we can just say stranger. Okay, so stranger marriage is occurring. So gamy is again a marriage itself. Okay, so these are the three types of pollination that we can find. So this will occur in the same flower, this will occur in the same plant, but a different flower. Okay, so same plant, different flower. Okay, but of the same species. So I'll write, so this is all of the same species. Okay, so this is of the same species only the exchange can occur. Are you all understanding? Okay, so same plant, different flower. Okay, so this is in a different flower. Now you know here different plants, okay, and different flowers basically. So this is between a different plant matlab, so basically they can have a different flowers only, so exchange is gonna occur. So we need to see what is clistogamy and what is chasmogamy, even though it is not mentioned in your book. Okay, so you can just know lightly about this one. So clistogamy is, clisto meaning is closed. Okay, so gamy is again a marriage itself. Chasmo meaning is basically open. Okay, so then again gamy meaning is the same, marriage itself. So closed marriage and open marriage, that means the flower which is there. Okay, so the flower will never bloom, so it is a bisexual flower. That means, you know, male reproductive part is also there, female reproductive part is also there. So from here itself the pollen grain is released within itself, and that pollen grain is reaching the stigma inside there itself. Okay, so this is a closed marriage, so this is not open for all other types of pollen grains. This is a closed marriage, where, or a closed pollination, where, you know, self pollen grains are taken onto the stigma, and then, you know, seed setting is assured. Okay, so now chasmogamy, when we mention, it is a open marriage, like, you know, open pollination can occur. So that means all the flowers, so now, you know, the flower is there, so this flower is actually having the stigma, then, you know, anther, so from others also. So now this is a style and this is a petiole. Okay, so from other plants also the pollen grains can reach over here, and the pollination, I mean germination, can occur. Okay, so this is from other flowers, that is mainly, you know, it can be related to gatonogamy. Okay, so gatonogamy can occur, or allogamy can occur over here. Okay, so if, even in case of this one, we can also see a autogamy that is happening. Okay, so this can also possible. So now, you know, other flower when we mention, so it can be with respect to gatonogamy, it can be with respect to allogamy, so both can be there. Autogamy when we mention, so it is within the same flower itself the transfer can occur. Okay, so now types of pollination, so self pollination and cross pollination. So now this is a plant, so this is plant 1. Okay, so this is plant 2, so this one is plant alone. Okay, so this is just a plant, and from that a flower is there. So pollen grain is being transferred here itself. Okay, here you can see that the pollen grains which are released, so they are going on to the other one, or here they have shown, so pollen grains are coming from this part to the this plant. Okay, so that means between plant 1 and plant 2 the pollination is occurring, so that we call as a cross pollination. If the pollination is occurring in the same plant, so in that case we call it as a self pollination. So not the same plant, we can preferably say that it is the same flower. Okay, so that is with respect to autogamy as well as a gatonogamy. So if it is a different flower in the same plant, so in that case we can say that it is a gatonogamy, or otherwise it is a autogamy itself. So gatonogamy can also occur here. Okay, so in this case this is a xenogamy, or we can also call it as a allogamy. Okay, so yes, are you all understanding? Any doubt till here? Okay, so now autogamy, so this is a process of self-pollination of the flower. So you can see that the self-pollination is occurring. So from here itself the anther is released and it is reaching the stigma. So this is the self-pollination. So now, you know, the pollen grain is released from, not anther, the pollen grain. Okay, so pollen grain is released, and this pollen grain is reaching the other stigma, that is of the other flower. So that is a cross-pollination. Okay, so now for autogamy, self-pollination, the pollen from the anther of the flower is transferred to the stigma of the same flower. Okay, so now clistogamy is basically an adaptation of closed flower, anthers and stigma lie close to each other, so there is no chance of a cross pollination in this case because it is a closed flower. Now chasmogamy, when we mention, so it can be a bisexual flower. Adaptation with exposed sex organs can be there. So anther and stigma will come close, that is by growth or maybe by bending or folding, so this can occur. So cross pollination is also possible because this is an open flower, that means the stigma is exposed, so that the pollen grains can reach through the wind, or they can reach through the water if it is aquatic plant. They can also reach through the insect because it is an attractive one. So both of the cases are possible. Okay, so now gatianogamy, when we mention pollination involving two different flowers of the same plant, pollen from one flower transfer to the stigma of the other flower. Okay, so from one plant, what is happening, the pollen is being transferred from one plant, one flower to the other flower in the same plant. So that is a gatianogamy. Okay, hi Gabru, hello, good evening. So I hope you are understanding. So now functionally cross-pollination, but it is genetically autogamy. So why do we call it as a functionally cross-pollination? Because it is moving from one flower. So let's say here is one flower. So there is another flower over here. So what exactly is happening? From one flower to the other flower, basically the pollen grain is moving. Okay, so it is the pollen grain that is moving. So function is cross-pollination, but it is autogamy. So why do we say it is autogamy? Because it is belonging to the same plant. Now in that case, the genetic makeup or the genes in this plant or in this flower, so that will be same, and here also the genes are going to be same. So same genes are there, that means it is a autogamy. So genetically it is a autogamy, or otherwise functionally the cross pollination is occurring. So plants, this occurs in plants with monoecious. What is monoecious? Any idea on this one? Monoecious flower, dioecious flower we say. What is monoecious flower? Please explain one more time. Yes, so you want me to explain gatianogamy, right, Gabru? I'll do that. Okay, so now gatianogamy means, so I'll just draw the plant and explain. So now this is a plant. Okay, so this plant is having all the branches and other things, so you can also find leaves there. Okay, so you can find a leaf. So in this case, gatianogamy, when we mention, so here is one flower in the same plant. So this is plant 1. Okay, so this is a plant 1, and here one more flower is there. Okay, so what can happen when the pollen grains, so let's say here the pollen grains are released. Okay, so when the pollen grains are released, and from the anther the pollen grains are transferred to the other flower. Okay, so this is a different flower but a same plant. Okay, so that means a same plant is there, but they are different flowers. So in that case, it is the functionally cross pollination is occurring. That means anther, pollen grain is transferred from one flower to the other flower of the same plant, but genetic makeup is same. What is genetic makeup here? So now this plant is having all the genes, same genes will be there. Okay, so genes, so same genes will be there. That means now this flower or this flower doesn't matter, functionally it is a autogamy, but the transfer of pollen grain is occurring because this flower is also having the same type of genes, and this flower is also having the same type of gene. So in that case it is a autogamy functionally. Okay, so functionally it is a autogamy, sorry, not functionally, you can see here. So this is genetically it is autogamy, so functionally it is basically gatianogamy. Okay, or we can say cross pollination. Autogamy, this is genetically, so genetically it is autogamy, but functionally it is a cross pollination. Okay, so is this clear? So now xenogamy or allogamy, when we mention, Yes, any doubt? Music, Gabru music, right? I don't know what is your name. So now allogamy, or we can say xenogamy, that is a stranger marriage. So in stranger marriage, what can happen? So process of a cross pollination, it is the participation of male and female parts of a two different flowers from two different plants. So now this is plant 1 here, okay. So this is plant 1, this is plant 2, okay. So this is plant 2. So flower from plant 1, flower plant from plant 2. So now what can happen? This insect, what is them? So this will collect, it will go to this flower to collect a nectar. So now this pollen grains, what are there? So they'll get attached onto the body of this insect. Now this bee, what is there? So it is going to the next flower, that is to collect nectar. It is going to collect. So now when it just gets inside this flower, that is to take the nectar, the pollen grains which are attached here, so they will fall on to the stigma of the another flower. So what is happening here? The pollen grain from anther of one flower is being transferred to the pollen grain of the stigma of the another flower of a different plant or plant too, but they are of the same species. So this is also a hibiscus, this is also a hibiscus, that means they are of the same species. So transfer is occurring from one plant to the other plant, that is from one flower to the other plant. So that we call as a xenogamy. So xenogamy is, xeno means or allo means stranger or other, gamy means it is a marriage. So gamy is basically a marriage. So stranger marriage is occurring. So in that case we can say that it is a xenogamy or a allogamy. Okay, so it is clear. Yes, I have started the class, Samriddhi. So is there a network issue? So this is introduction to pollen grain I am teaching, okay. So this is from your Selena textbook, okay. So you can see this picture is given, the figure 5.1, the diagrammatic representation. So this is from the Selena textbook, okay. So they have clearly shown here by mistake, okay, no problem. So I got confused whether I was audible or visible or not. So yes, anyway, so now autogamy. So as you can see that this is the same flower, okay. So pollen grain is being transferred from the anther to the stigma of the same flower. So that we call as autogamy, self marriage, okay. So auto is self, gamy is marriage, so self marriage, okay. So now you can see there is one more flower in the same plant. So from here what is happening? The pollen grain is being transferred from one flower to the other flower, so that is in the same plant, okay. So this is one flower, this is a different flower in the same plant. So in that case the pollen grain is being transferred, so that is a gatonogamy. What is gatonogamy? Gatono matlab it is basically we can say neighbor, okay. So gatono is neighbor, gamy is marriage. So neighbor marriage in the same plant. So let's say this is a plant now, this is a flower and this is another flower, okay. So when the pollen grain is being transferred from this flower to this flower, so in that it is a neighbor, they are neighbor flowers. So the pollen grain is being transferred there, so that is a gatonogamy. So cross pollination, when we mention, yes, I'm explaining allogamy now, okay. So now you can see this is a cross pollination or a allogamy. So what is happening in this case? So let me just erase all that I have written over here. So now here in this case, as you can see, the pollen grain, so it can be through the wind. So wind can be the pollinating agent, or insect can be the pollinating agent. If it is a aquatic plant, water can be the pollinating agent, or we can say human is touching a flower, so he can also be a pollinating agent. So in that case, let's say I touch this flower. So this flower I am touching, so on my hand the pollen grains are attached, okay. So lot of powdery material, pollen grain is attached. Now next what I'll do, I'll go from here, so I'll touch this flower. Okay, so now when I touch this flower, so stigma is going to receive the pollen grain from this flower to this flower. So pollen grain I collected from this flower. Okay, that is different plant of the same species, but this plant is, I mean this flower is getting the pollen grain from this flower. So now who is the agent? Human is the pollinating agent. So if it is going through the wind, so air is there, so you know pollen grains which are released here, so these pollen grains can reach the stigma of this flower. So in that, through the air also, you know, the pollen grains can reach this particular flower. Okay, or it can be through the insect. So let's say one insect comes here. Okay, so this insect comes here, it will collect the pollen grain, then it is going to the other flower, it will drop the pollen grain here. So why exactly the pollen, I mean why exactly these insects are coming? Because the flowers are attractive. So basically the flowers are attractive in nature, that is to attract these insects. So they'll be colorful, they produce a nectar, so that is to attract the insect. So once the nectar, I mean once the insect is attracted, so they'll collect the nectar anyway, but again they are transferring a pollen grain from one particular flower to the other flower. So allogamy can occur. So what is the meaning of allogamy here? Allo can be other. Okay, so it can be other, or we can also say stranger. So stranger gamy is marriage. So stranger marriage, why do we say? Because they are not belonging to the same plant, so they are of different plant but the same species, but the transfer is occurring from plant A to plant B, or plant B to plant A. So in that case, you know, it is completely a other person, or a other, not person, other plant itself. So it is a stranger pollination that we can see. I hope it is clear. शिक्षिका महोदय, क्या आप केमिस्ट्री भी पढ़ाती है बायो के अलावा? नो, राइट नाउ आई एम टीचिंग ओनली बायो, गब्रू. ओके, so right now only it is bio, so I can, but I am assigned only for bio. All right, yes. So now moving on to the advantages and disadvantages associated. So what exactly is the advantages of self pollination? So this is again taken from the Selena textbook itself. So it is much surer in such bisexual flower where stamens and carpels mature at the same time. So now let's say this is a flower. Okay, so there is a stamen also, there is a carpel also. So you know the pollen grains which are released in this flower, so it is immediately, it can reach the stigma of the flower. Okay, so in that case it is much more sure that the male and the female reproductive part are being combined. So that is through the pollination. That means, you know, the fertilization can occur here. So once the fertilization occurs, okay, so as the fertilization occurs, you know that it will lead to seed formation, fruit formation. So basically ovary is going to form itself into a fruit, the ovule is going to form a seed. So this is a much more surer case in case of a self-pollination. So this is the advantage of a self-pollination. Now parental characters are preserved. Why parent? Hi SS, good evening. So why exactly parental characters are preserved then? So that is because it is coming from the same plant. So it can be between the different flowers of a same plant, or it is the same flower of a same plant. Okay, so in that case the plant will have the same genetic makeup. So all the characters of a plant, that is a parental plant, is gonna be preserved. Okay, so then there is no wastage of a pollen grain. If it has, let's say this is one plant and this is one plant, now you know the pollen grains have to flow from this flower, I mean fly from this flower to this flower. Okay, so during that process, when the pollen grains have to flow from here to here, so during the process, you know, lot of wastage of a pollen grain can occur. Okay, so in that case here, as it is occurring in the same flower, so there is no much of a wastage, or we can say there is no wastage of a pollen grain. Even a small quantity of pollen grain is enough, suffices. Basically even a small quantity of pollen grain is produced, so that is more than sufficient. Okay, So now the flowers need not be large and showy. So now, whenever a self-pollination is occurring, it need not attract all those insects and other things. So it is not dependent on other organisms. Okay. So basically, it has to, whenever it has to attract an insect, main thing is it has to produce a nectar, it has to produce a large amount, a larger flower, it has to produce a colorful flower or a petal, it has to produce. So a lot of energy is being wasted in producing attractive flower. So in that case, so whenever a self pollination is occurring, advantage is that it need not attract anyone. So if only because it is the pollen grain is being transferred from anther to the stigma of the same flower or different flowers of the same plant, so in that case it need not get attracted. So scent and nectar need not be produced by the flower because it need not attract the insect that is to transfer the pollen grain. So here pollinating agent is not required. Okay, so pollinating agent like any of these, nectar, I mean sorry, not nectar, insect, wind, water, so they are not required. So that is why they need not produce. So in that case, all the above advantage mean great economy on the part of a plant. So lot of nutrient material which could otherwise be used, so for nectar production, for colorful petal production, to make the flower larger, a lot of energy is required, a lot of protein, or we can say lot of nutrient is required in general. So now this plant is not at all producing larger flower or attractive flower, or nectar is not being produced. It is going to preserve lot of the nourishment or nutrition for other activities. So that is why production of pollen, nectar, scent, so scent I did not mention, and larger petals, so etc. is going to be saved. Okay, so now disadvantage when we mention, so weakening can occur. Okay, so weakening of the variety. So as we start, so continued self pollination generation after generation, so it can weaken. Okay, so now within the same plant itself, the transfer is occurring, so this plant might not be a better one. Hi Srivatsava, Srivatsa, right? Hi Srivatsa, good evening. Srivatsa, not Srivatsa. Okay, so now here in this case, so continued self-pollination. So same plant is there. So from here only the pollen grain is getting rotated. So every time the generation after generation, so same flower, same pollen grain, everything is happening. So in that case, there is a chance that the plant can get weakened. Why? Because this particular plant which is living in this particular environment, it is not well adapted to the surrounding condition. If it is not well adapted to the surrounding condition, it can go on getting weaker. If the pollen grain is being transferred from this flower to this flower, so let's say this plant is well adapted to the condition. Okay, so well adapted to this condition. I think I'm not visible. Okay, so this plant is well adapted. Okay, in that case, when the transfer is being done from one flower to the other flower, so there is a chance that this flower, the next progeny, what is there, so that can also be stronger like the other plant, because the genetic makeup from a stronger parent is coming. So in that case, the other progeny or a new plant that is being produced, so that can be stronger here. Okay, so now same way, the weaker or the defective characters of the variety or breed, so we cannot eliminate as it is occurring in the same plant. Okay, so weaker characteristics we cannot remove, but if it is a other plant pollination is occurring like allogamy, if a allogamy occurs, then in that case there is a chance that the weaker character or a defective character can be removed, or otherwise from same plant the weaker character cannot be removed. Now it does not yield new varieties. Why there are no new varieties? Because it is the same old parent who is giving rise to a same old type of the newer plant. Like there is no variety in that. Now this is one plant, this is one plant. So when they both combine, so there is a new type of variety. Like we in case of humans only, if I say, okay, usually there is no asexual reproduction when we mention about sexual reproduction, so certain characteristics are coming from father, certain characteristics are coming from a mother. Okay, so that means, father might be resistant to different type of diseases, mother might not be. Now the progeny who is produced, so this progeny can be healthier like a father. So in that case, as the father is resistant to cold, so progeny which is produced, so that can also be resistant to cold, but the mother is not resistant to cold. But now again, when we talk of mother is resistant to different type of a disease, a father is not. So in that case, this progeny can be resistant to all the different types of diseases that can occur. So this progeny can be stronger also. So we can find the varieties if the pollination is occurring between the different organisms of the same species, or otherwise if it is the same old, only one parent is there, so in that case there is no variety. Okay. So now advantage of cross pollination is this thing. So just now I said the offspring can be healthier because it is getting characteristic features from both the parents. So seeds produced are so large amount of seed production viable is basically living seeds. Okay, so when we sow these seeds in the soil, they can give rise to a plant. So certain seeds are there, even if we go on sowing them in the soil, they will never give rise to a plant. So because they are dead, dead seeds. Okay, so now viable means a living seeds can be produced, new varieties can be produced because it is a combination of two parental plant, because this is one plant, this is one plant, so combination of genes is occurring. So because of that, a new plant can be produced, so that is a new variety can be obtained. Okay, so disadvantages of a cross pollination when we mention, so pollination is not always certain. So some agent is always required in case of a cross pollination. So either water should be there, or wind should be there, or insects should be there, or it can be human should be there, anything or any of the agent is required, or otherwise the cross pollination is not possible. Okay, so now lot of wastage of pollen grain is occurring. So let's say these two plants are far, now pollen grains have to flow, fly from one plant to the other plant. It is not that it is always reaching its target, that is stigma itself. So some of the pollen grains can fall in between, so lot of a wastage can occur. So some can get to other species flowers, so some can get to the soil, so only few can reach a stigma. So in that case, a lot of wastage of a pollen we can see. Now the process is uneconomical for the plant. Why it is uneconomical? Because flowers need to be large, flowers need to be colored, flowers need to be scented, flowers need to produce the nectar. So that is mainly to attract the pollinating agent. So that means they need to attract insects or maybe a human also. So in that they are the source who transfer these pollen grains from one plant to the other plant. So for that reason, large colored scented. So that means a lot of nutrient is used by the plant, a lot of ATP energy is being used by the plant. So in all these cases, it is uneconomical we can say, but it is having a healthier option or a better advantages. So always when we mention nature always favors, okay, it is nature. Okay, so nature always favors cross pollination. Why? Because better adaptability will be there, the plant which is produced that can be healthier. Okay, so it is always the nature favoring the cross pollination, even though there are associated disadvantage, like if we have to gain something, so we have to lose something, right? So it is always like that. Now photosynthesis to occur, so in order to take in the carbon dioxide, that is through the stomatal pore. Okay, so what has to be done? So transpiration occurs. So always if something has to occur, so we have to lose something. So same way, so now we need to lose, this plant has to lose some of the a large amount of nutrient, it will be losing large amount of pollen grain, wastage is occurring, and it always requires. So these are the associated disadvantage, but yes, it always produces a healthier. So there is a more of a chance that a healthier progeny or a healthier plant is produced, a new variety is produced which is better adaptable to the surrounding. Okay, so that is why it is important to go for the cross pollination. Nature always favors the cross pollination. I hope it is clear. Anybody any doubt? So what is happening with my nose? One second. So these are the agents of pollination. So basically, insects are them. So abiotic and biotic when we mention. Okay, so wind and water are abiotic. Biotic when we mention, so there can be reptiles, insects, birds also can transfer, mammals can transfer. So all these are the biotic. Biotic is living, biotic is basically non-living. Okay, so this is a non-living, wind and the water. Okay, so in agents of pollination, insects, ants, beetles, wasps, animals, okay, then birds, bats, herbivores, so any of these can transfer the pollen grains. Okay, so it is not just only the bee or anything, so any of these including the humans can also transfer the pollen grains. Okay, so yes, we are done with today's session as the time is up and I need to take another session also. I'll end this session. Okay, so before I end, let me just say about this. So there is a batch, so champions batch, it is a all subject batch. The mode of delivery is English here. So if you are subscribing for class 9, so you will be getting subscription class 10 to 12 absolutely free. Okay, so level up with Vani Kari. So this is my referral code Vani YT. Okay, so with this referral code, so you need not use this code. So this is Vani YT. So with this referral code, basically, you can enroll. So you can find the link over there. So with that link, you can enroll. So you can also unlock the free products that are available with this referral code, that is Vani YT. Okay, so there is a Bugs Bounty opportunity for all learners to report any inappropriate content in the video. Be the first one to report a particular issue to claim your prize. Then report any inappropriate content using the form in the description. So if anything like that is there, so you can report it. Okay, so how you can watch my special classes? Download the Unacademy Learner app, open the app on click on get started. Then you can enter your mobile number and OTP, sign up using your email ID. So then you need to select the class 6 to 12. Then you can select your category ICSE. Then you can choose the preferred language, English, Hindi or English. Then go to the description of video and click on the special link and click on notify me. So you can also use my code Vani YT. So this is my referral code. So with this referral code, you can unlock the free products that are available on Unacademy. Also, you can get 10% discount or 10% off on the subscription with the referral code. So that is Vani YT. Okay, so then this is not there. Okay, so download the Unacademy app now and try all of these features for free. And this is my referral code. So click on bell icon to get notified about the classes. Subscribe to our channel, that is Unacademy ICSE and ISC boards. Like and share the video and download the Unacademy app now. Also you can join the channel Vani Kari ICSE class 9 and 10. Okay, so Vani Kari ICSE class 9 and 10. So you can join this Telegram channel. Okay, so this is a Telegram channel. Okay, so once you join, anything that you have or any notes related to this, and if you want this notes, I can send the PDF over there, so you can join the Telegram channel over there. Okay, so download the Unacademy Learners app and start using this. So see you all in the next session. Thank you everyone. Bye bye. Thank you so much.